My name is Wellington Hepburn. I said it already. I am the president of Wellington Hepburn International. And today we get to hear from Mr. Fusion Superplex himself. Man, you
Indeed.
would think you would think I wasn't speaking to him this whole week, Ahmad. I feel excited.
All right.
But before we get into our content, let's play our series intro, and then we'll do our official welcome. Our world has changed, and that has impacted the way that we live and the way that we work. And as we look over the changes that we've gone through over the past year, we have to stop and say, do the skills that we have now still allow us to be effective in this new normal? Can we perform at our best? And the answer is no. We need to have new skills, new competencies in order to be effective in this new normal. And through this workshop series, we will cover 10 competencies that will allow us to achieve excellence and to maintain high performance. If the world has shifted and adapted, we too need to shift, adapt, and transition. Welcome to the Transition Series. Our world has... Okay, so let's get into it. So I'd like to welcome all of our participants to our webinar today. Today, we're going to be talking about execution. You'll hear us say it so many times on today's webinar. So many businesses, so many individuals can come up with a strategy, but being able to execute that strategy is an entirely different kettle of fish. And where most individuals, I guess what contributes to most individuals' lackluster performance is not knowing how to execute. So today we'll be hearing from Tecoyo Bridgewater from Fusion Superplex, and Ahmad will be introducing him shortly. But I do want to say thank you to all of you for joining our webinar today. We do still have a few folks joining. We should have between 30 to 40 participants. And I'd like to welcome both our local and international participants. In our previous series, we had participants from Spain, the US, Canada, the UK, Africa. So the reach of WHI and Astute Talent Management has been growing. For those of you that are tuning in via your phones or via your computer, I'd like to set a few meeting guidelines. I would ask for you to please keep your mics on mute so that everyone can hear what's being said and that we are communicating effectively and clearly. If you wish to get a question answered, you can raise your hand in the chat, and either Ahmad or myself, we can let you enter the conversation and you can get your question answered. In terms of our flow for today, and it here feels warm. In terms of our flow for today, we will have the first hour will be information sharing by our team, and then also by Tecoyo. We will take a short break, and over that break, we have a little surprise for you. And then in the second hour, we're going to get into our case study. What I've found with knowledge is that it's not enough just to sit on a webinar and receive. You need to practice. Research shows that 80% of what you've learned in a week when you attend the training is lost unless you reinforce it. So you have to reinforce it, and today we will be doing that. I also want to point out to you that we do have a structured question and answer segment. So please write your questions down, type it in your phone, whatever works for you, so that we can get your questions answered and you can get the most amount of value from this webinar. All right, Ahmad, I'll hand it over to you and grab a piece of tissue because I think all this excitement making me hot. I'll be right back.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Transition Series, our second installment on the execution difference. It is a pleasure to have you all with us on your Sunday afternoon. Thank you for spending time with us. Just one thing I want to say before I bring on, introduce our guest speaker this afternoon, is that both Tecoyo, myself, and Wellington are all allergic to disengagement. So the one thing we require of you this afternoon is engagement. We want you to be engaging in the chat. We want you to, when it's time to unmute yourself and participate as best you can. And of course, take full advantage of the case study session later on this afternoon. And so thank you again for joining us this afternoon, family. I want to now take some time to introduce Mr. Tecoyo Bridgewater, as Wellington introduced him as indeed Mr. Fusion Superplex himself. Tecoyo, the floor is yours. I think Tecoyo may have gotten disconnected. So we're going to give him just a minute to return so we can get this show rolling.
All right.
I believe Tecoyo got cut out. I'm just going to give him a few seconds to rejoin us, Wellington, before we move on.
No problem. Did you want me to bring up the competency map in the meantime so we can talk through that?
That would be great.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be great.
There you go.
There we go. So on your screen, everyone, we have the transition series, the competency map, and what we're going to be going through over the next 8 weeks now as we're in our second session. And WHI and ATM, which is what I affectionately call my company, Astute Management, we have the same vision. We believe that education is power, and the more people we can impact through education, the better we work, the better work we would have done. And so right now, the world is in a situation where we are forced to pivot and forced to transition. And anyone that has any good sense is taking full advantage of what the world has given us in circumstance and making opportunity from it. I always say there's opportunity in every obstacle. And so we have taken it upon ourselves to present this transition series to you to make sure that everyone involved is able to take something from it and impact the business life, their professional lives, and even their personal lives in an impactful and positive way.
Absolutely.
Tecoyo is back with us as well.
Yeah, I see Tecoyo is back. Excellent. Excellent. Talk about a practical example of execution, right?
I know, right? So Tecoyo, without further ado, you can go ahead and introduce yourself to our participants this afternoon.
Okay, my name is Tecoyo Bridgewater. I apologize for what happened just now. We planned to have this meeting run seamlessly, and then the electricity turned off right now. So yes, my name is Tecoyo Bridgewater. I am an attorney and counsel at law, and I am one of the founding members of the Fusion Superplex team, and I operate as the risk management and chief legal officer at Fusion Superplex. Just to give a brief introduction, I graduated from the University of the West Indies, and I obtained my LLB from the James Future Law School. And I've been practicing law for 10 years now. And then I'm now here at Fusion Superplex.
Indeed. Tecoyo, it's such a pleasure to have you with us today as we discuss and break down and debrief and dissect the concept and the construct of execution. And I believe that today's session is going to be powerful because there's so much that we have to be getting into right now in terms of implementing and executing a strategy. And so it's great to have you with us. And we look forward to a very lively and engaging discussion with you this afternoon. So thank you again for being here. Wellington, over to you.
Absolutely. So ladies, listen, ladies and gents, rather, I believe that since we are talking about execution, everything is trying to test our agility. So forgive me, my air conditioning has decided to, very similarly to Tecoyo, act up. So I will keep my camera off just momentarily while I try to resolve it, but we will still push through. So before we hear from Tecoyo, We wanted to pause the conversation and really talk about what execution is. And there's a lovely book, such a good book, that I did in my MBA program called Execution, the Discipline of Getting Things Done. It's by Larry Bossidy and Ram Charan. They've had several facelifts to it, but it's an outstanding book. And one of the things we want to highlight as we talk about execution is the reason why we've added this to our training outline is that so many companies, so many individuals plan but don't see results. Let's take a simple personal example. If it relates to you, disassociate yourself from it. But how many of your friends at the beginning of the year or family members at the beginning of the year say that they're going to lose weight? How many? You know, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to lose 15 pounds. And by the time the end of January comes, there's no execution. You've forgotten about that goal. That vision board that you've created probably is tucked away somewhere. So there's an execution gap. There's a motivation for planning and for strategic thinking, but to deliver results, there's a gap. And that's a personal example, but we see it organizationally also. Some individuals know how to some companies know how to execute well, and others fall short. And in this book, they define execution. One of the many definitions is the main reason why companies fall short of their promises. Wow. When we think about execution, we want you to be mindful of three things. And we're not going to get into it because I mean, literally, we're not going to get into it in detail because literally an entire book has been written on it. But we want to highlight three overall concepts for you. The first, when we think about execution, is you need to think about how your company is leveraging the people, the talent, the human resources that they have. People provide differentiation and strategic advantage. When you think about companies, you could have the biggest budget, you could have the biggest technology, you could have the grandest idea, but you still need human beings to bring it into reality. Human resources. There are different types of resources in organizations, financial, intellectual, etc. But human resources are critically important. You also need to have a good strategy. You'll hear Tecoyo talk about this in his interview. You know, you could have good execution, but if you have a failed strategy, you're coming out of the gate at a disadvantage. So we need to think about how do we go through the strategic planning and mapping process to come up with a good strategy that suits my organization, that suits my culture, and that prepares and positions us for the long term. I did a consulting engagement with a particular company, won't call their name, won't call their industry. And they were trying to force a strategy onto their culture that their culture was not ready to receive. And they wanted to do that because it was the best practice in the industry. And I said to them, I hear you, but what is the best practice for your company at the juncture that you are at? You have to pick strategies that work for your company. And then you also need to think about how do you operationalize your people and your strategy to produce operational results. Sometimes leaders can come up with the strategy, they could hire the A+ team, but they can't connect the dots to actually produce the results that they want. And that is a very interesting part of the puzzle. And I'm sure Tecoyo will talk a little bit about that today. So we just wanted to level set the conversation. When you think about execution, think about these three lenses and other principles that Tecoyo will be sharing with us today. Over to you, Ahmad.
Indeed. And so execution is a lot more than just a plan, right? Because as we've discussed in that short amount of time, the best plan is not going to result in strategy. The best strategy with a faulty plan is not going to result in anything worthwhile as well. And so today we have, as I've mentioned earlier, the pleasure of being joined by Tecoyo Bridgewater, and we're going to get right into it. So Tecoyo, please start off by telling us a little bit about Fusion Superplex and your role at the entertainment complex.
Fusion Superplex is an entertainment center created predominantly for families. We have 17 brands. We have 5 unique movie experiences. We have the VIP where you sit down and you're catered to. It's almost like watching a movie at home, push button service, recline seating, top of the line visual effects. We also have the IMAX, Image Maximum. It is a 80 feet wide screen, 50 feet high. It is one of the largest in the regions. Yes, in the Bahamas, we can proudly say we have one of the largest screens in the regions. Wow. We also have called 4DX. It's what you would call an environmental effects movie experience where you're ingrained in the movie, where you have light strobes, you have wind, you have rain, you have seats that move side to side. We also have an arcade, both for the kids and for the adults, a soft play area. If you could remember back when we used to go probably to McDonald's or Burger King, the jungle gym area. We have in jungle gym area called the soft play. We also have an advertising company ingrained within Fusion Superplex. We have our Jumbotron, as well as we have a number of screens that you can use to advertise your business or event. We have an events area, whereas you can rent spaces. We have an enormous courtyard at the Rare Fusion Superplex where we have a number of parties over the years. We also have something called Project Empower. And Project Empower is our educational platform where we utilize film to educate children. It can be here, it can be on islands. We utilize that platform. It's just a fusion of brands that we've brought together, whereas any individual from the 5-year-old to the 75-year-old can come and be entertained. And my role at Fusion Super, I indicated, as the Chief Legal Officer, as well as the Risk Management Officer. So the only thing I'm assessing are the risks that are involved as it relates to business and as it relates to any liability that the company may be open to, in a sense. I'm also one of the founders, so I'm one of the individuals who laid the blocks to establish Fusion Superplex.
Wow. You know, Ahmad, I had to fight myself because I really wanted to say I did the 4DX experience in X-Men, one of that. And I was screaming in there like a little girl, Ahmad. Let me just put it out there.
You did it in X-Men, I did it in Aquaman, and I left drenched. I left shaken. My mom had a stiff neck. My auntie was saying she needed a drink. It was the most thrilling experience I've ever had in a theater in my life. And trust me, I was like, I expected, little splash, little something. But oh my gosh, that was a phenomenal experience. It was truly amazing.
It really was. It really was. Now, Tecoyo, this whole concept of execution is interesting, because anyone could come up with a dream, right? But how do you really turn a dream into an actionable strategy? To me, that's an entirely different thing. As I watched Fusion Superplex over the years, to me, it appears as though it started as someone's vision or dream. So talk to us about how your team kind of saw an opportunity in the marketplace and took a concept in someone's head and turned it into an actual plan and strategy.
Okay. Now, as you indicated, the first aspect of it is the vision. Or I would say the first aspect of it is you identifying a problem, because that's what entrepreneurs do. Entrepreneurs, we look to find solutions to problems.
Yeah.
Okay. Entertainment in our country was a problem, and we recognized certain areas that we could have tapped into in order to find a way to create some business for the lack of entertainment that was in the country. So you found a problem. Now, we had other ideas, but we realized after one of my partners went to New York, he took part in the IMAX experience. And he realized that even though we had movie theaters during the time, that this experience was different. It was a different experience. And therefore, we felt as if we could bring this experience to the Bahamas, right? And persons or people would therefore want to partake in this entertainment experience. So we took that problem and we created the idea, and we had the vision of introducing the IMAX experience, okay? I always say that execution is just the implementation of deliberate acts to get to the goal, or to get.
Wow.
Now started the planning phases. And the planning phase involved a number of things. The planning phases involved the introduction of new data. We had to do certain studies which would have allowed us to have a good plan. Now, my position is this: execution, as you indicated earlier, without a good plan is just as bad as having a wonderful plan and not knowing how to execute.
Correct. Yes, yes.
What we have to do now is we have to take into consideration the things that are important in order to execute properly. And the beginning of that, in my mind, is a good plan. You have to take in consideration the consequences of the decisions that you make, which is risk management. You have to manage your risk. If I take this course, what will be the consequences of me taking this course as opposed to this course? And this is where the SWOT analysis comes into play, right? Mm-hmm. So the elements I believe in executing properly would be have that strategic plan. What you want to do now is you want to find the right people. Because if you don't have the right people who don't see your vision or who can't execute your vision, then you're going to have problems. Yeah. Okay. The plan itself doesn't need to be perfect, right? Because a lot of people, they want to create a perfect plan and they do not execute. So that means somebody else who may have a good plan can beat you to the market because you're taking too long to strategize and not to execute. Yeah. So having a good plan, but it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to then act. And in your acting, this is, I believe, the most important aspect of execution. When you are acting, you now have to measure your progress and you have to make decisions to adapt or to innovate based on what your measurements say. Because if you are unable to innovate or you're unable to be resilient, and that means to say, okay, perhaps we can adjust our plans and then we are able to move in a different direction because we were stagnant here right now. So I believe that those are the aspects right there. And really important is the reevaluation or the adaptation of a particular plan or a particular set of execution principles to get to your goal.
Yes. Wow, you said so much. But I won't take up too much. I just want to make two comments. This is so exciting to me because I think, one, as a Bahamian people, and I'm a Bahamian, so I'm including myself in this, we tend to talk a lot, but we don't tend to take a lot of action. I won't call any of your competitors names, but we know who some of them are. And I as a consumer, using the other competitors' products, I saw some opportunities for it to be improved too. And, for us as a people, we sometimes look and poke holes, but we don't take that step to actually do something about it. Yeah. I've heard so many people complain before Fusion about, other competitors and what they don't have and things like that. But now here you guys are taking a step forward. I also want to comment too on that point about it doesn't have to be perfect. Analysis paralysis. Sometimes when you wait for too long, you can miss the opportunity. I remember clearly about Apple and BlackBerry. BlackBerry, first of all, they didn't even fully recognize Apple. This thing gonna fade. Nobody really want customized devices. What's this I thing they working through? Now Apple's market capitalization is $1 trillion.
Actually, it's $2 trillion now.
It's $2 trillion now. Wow. So these things we're talking about produce real results. Ahmad, over to you.
Indeed, the year was 2012, and I was a loan officer at Scotiabank. And into my office one day came a gentleman by the name of Carlos Folks. He brought his very pregnant wife into my office, and they sat down and we discussed which was supposed to be a discussion about something personal for them,
Right.
we discussed his vision or the vision that he shared for this big, huge mega complex. And I left that meeting because I saw the passion in his eyes and I saw the passion that his wife shared. And I thought to myself, first of all, will this really happen? The second thought I had was, I can't wait to see it. And then lo and behold, one day I was coming up on the highway and I saw this thing started to manifest. And I was like, wait a minute. This is Mr. Fox, this is Carlos's dream, this is his vision. And now to get an opportunity to understand that, yes, there may have been 1,000 plans, there may have been 1 million arguments and just meeting after meeting and start fresh, to see it actually manifested. And so to your point, Tecoyo, earlier, there's not necessarily a need to have a perfect plan, but we certainly have to have somewhere where we're starting from, right? The right people around you, people that share into your vision, and the things that will go from vision to actual product. But Tecoyo, talk to us and our audience about what execution as a concept actually means to you. What does it actually mean? Because, you know, there's theory and there's things that sound good and feel good, but tell us today, what does it mean to you?
No, and that's what I said earlier. My view of execution is the implementation of deliberate actions to get to your goal. What you are, in essence, saying is, I'm going to do what is necessary in order to get to this goal. And therefore, you have to take into consideration certain evaluations. Whereas, what is the plan? First aspect, what is the plan? After that, it's putting the right people in the right places in order to get that plan, in order to achieve that plan or that goal. And then it goes back to what I said initially in realigning, redefining, or being resilient and moving forward in the accomplishment of that goal. It is really about the acting part of that. But let me just say this based on something that you said just now. We were not the only individuals who had the idea for the IMAX. Literally, we were not the only individuals. There were about 3 other entities who were involved in investigating the IMAX concept and bringing it to the Bahamas. But let me tell you what we did differently, which allowed us to now have Fusion Superplex where it's at right now. And that is when it comes into exercising and executing a plan. We found out the cost of the IMAX license. And in order to position ourselves, we decided to create a fund, and we would have placed monies into this fund, and we would have investigated. So we just didn't say we wanted the IMAX license. We investigated who to get the IMAX license from. We investigated the cost of the IMAX license, and then we acted by creating the fund, and we acted by contacting IMAX, and then we acted by purchasing the license even before we had funding to build the facility.
Wow.
So we cornered the market in a sense, or we created what you would call a position of strength. Whereas we took out all of the individuals who may have wanted or who may have been competitors at that time, and we entered into a 20-year exclusive license for the IMAX in the Bahamas.
So Tecoyo has given us what I just turned in my mind. The Spirit just gave it to me, Tecoyo, so thank you for the inspiration. The 4P execution strategy, right? So execution defined by Tecoyo is P4, right? We have people, we have plan, people, process, and progress. Without the plan, it can go nowhere, right? Without the people around you that believe in your plan, are going to invest in your plan and have the right kind of mindset that makes sense around you, because it's going to be your auntie, your grandma, your cousin. Where you trying to go? Open up any IMAX, you know, anything, afford that, this thing happen, anybody got no money for no this? No, you need to have the plan, the people around you that will sow into your dream and your vision. Then the process, what will it take? How do I iron out this thing? And then we keep moving, we just keep making progress day after day. That is a very good execution definition. Thank you very much. So guys, do you remember anything else? P4, plan, people, process, and progress. Wellington, you go.
Boy, Tecoyo, you better copyright that one. Ahmad, sound like you like that a lot.
You know,
Listen.
Ahmad, Wellington, do you know it's so funny? I actually gave a speech before on the 7 P's of success. So it's just amazing that you got
Wow.
4 P's just now.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Indeed.
So Tecoyo, you've already talked to us a little bit about, some of the ways that Fusion has executed your strategy and the strategy of your board in the industry that you're in. If you can share, without, sharing anything proprietary, what are you guys looking at doing now in this unique environment that we're in? I want to say post-COVID, but we're not really fully post. We're still in it. So
Yeah.
what are you guys thinking about adjusting to your execution strategy?
That's it right there. That's the first aspect of it. What you do now is you take into consideration the past and you take into consideration certain mistakes that were made.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you have the discussions in regard to things that could have been done differently. Because remember, we were in a startup phase. We were only open before COVID shut us down for a year and I think 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And within that year and 4 months, we had almost a 2-month shutdown of consumers due to Dorian. So really and truly, we're looking at probably 12 months. And any startup, any company, we're just trying to get out of the how can I say, that phase of construction, for a better expression. So really and truly, we were already in that adjustment mood. So what now happens is we have to get, I would say, even more creative as a result of the COVID protocols and the COVID restrictions that we believe that we will be moving into even when we are open. So that takes sitting down around the table, that takes brainstorming, and that takes assessing the risk, takes assessing all of the consequences of whatever decisions that we make. Additionally, it comes with a newfound enforcement in mind, whereas things that occurred before may not occur again. It comes with a tightening of the belt. It comes with a realization that many things that we may have taken for granted, we can no longer take for granted. Mm-hmm. I'm just being very vague and general, but trying to give you the point. The point is really finding a new way to operate and ensuring that our management is in line with that new way so that they can now enforce the vision that we have at the top to the bottom. Because I always have a discussion with my partner and we always talk about the iceberg effect, how only a portion at the top of the iceberg is seen, but most of the depth of the iceberg is below the waters. Mm-hmm. And so in order for us to effectively be able to make good decisions, we have to have information. And in order for our vision to be presented to the staff below, we have to have the management team buy into that vision, because we're not hearing everything. We're not seeing everything down there. Even though we as owners, directors, and officers of the company are in a good position to have more information than an owner who was not a part of the company or who was not an officer. Yeah. So we know some things that are going on, but in every company, most things that affect the company are known by staff at a lower level. So right now, it's just about reassessing the things that we've learned from our mistakes in the past, taking the new COVID protocols and implementing new things that will help us to remain viable.
Yeah, I have a sub question to what you said just now briefly. Based on the last updates that I've seen, I believe the entertainment industry in terms of cinemas is still closed. Is that still the case?
Well, the cinemas globally were reopening.
Oh, okay.
It's not the issue of COVID, and let me not say it's not the issue of COVID. COVID is the overall issue.
Yeah.
But the reason why most of the cinema outlets around the world are have like a soft opening or they're at 50% is because of the content, meaning the Hollywood studios.
Oh, okay.
Studios produce the content, and we as the exhibitors, we display the content. So if the Hollywood studios are pushing back their content, that means us as the exhibitors, we don't have any movie
content to share. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
The release of certain content, but I want everyone to always remember that Fusion Superplex, we're not only just a cinema. Now, our main focus is the cinema aspect of our business. However, we are more than just a cinema. So we have a number of other things. So if you see the movie houses closing down because of a lack of content around the globe, most of them just display movies. We are a full entertainment facility. So if we are released from the restraints of COVID, we may be able to show some new movies that are coming, but we will have to get creative. It's all about adjusting, and that's what it is right now. I heard you talk about BlackBerry and Apple. The reason why BlackBerry is not as prevalent today as Apple is because they did not adjust, they did not innovate, they did not see the trend coming.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? If we see the coming that COVID is going to impact us in this way, and the distributors are not going to be releasing these movies, we now have to become creative in order for us to have our business remain viable, because we're more than just a cinema.
So Tecoyo, in thinking, as I listen to you, I think about the businesses in the country and all around the world that have had to close their doors because of what they didn't do as a result of COVID. Talk to our audience, because there might be someone that's a business owner that's starting a business that's thinking about, wow, I'm not going to do this anymore because of all the businesses that closed down here. I think about a few years ago when the government at the time just redesigned Blue Hill Road. How many businesses had to close because of a lack of what you're talking about now, vision, and taking a minute to step back and say, you know what should I be doing differently? How do I take what has happened and make it work for me? What would be your biggest advice to business owners right now, even people who are in leadership in businesses, to do right this minute? What do you do before you go to work tomorrow? Before you go back to your business plan tomorrow, what do you think is your biggest advice for them to do?
Well, I mean, the biggest advice is information right now. You have to gather the necessary amount of information for whatever direction you want to go into. And I think it goes back to me saying you need the plan, but more importantly, it goes back to me saying that you need to be able to be resilient in whatever direction you need to go to when you're faced with new circumstances.
Yeah.
So gathering the information is important. What is impacting me? What decisions can I make to go in whichever direction that I need to go into? How can I then adjust my business to accommodate the new normal in a sense? And many people are doing that right now. Many people, in fact, people are becoming very resilient because they're taking the COVID situation and they're turning it into a positive despite it being negative. You see some people are adjusting. John Watlings, for example, they went from producing the alcohol to now producing hand sanitizing material.
Yes.
So it's all about taking that information in and just trying to find a way to adapt to the circumstances. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Some individuals or some business may not be able to adapt, right? Because I heard that statistics that 60% of the companies in America that have shut down will permanently be shut down. And so that's, it may be based on a number of factors, because what's important to also realize is that in circumstances when your business is shut down, in circumstances whereas you're not having the sufficient amount of revenue, you don't have cash reserves on hand, right? Many businesses don't have beyond 3 months. Let's be honest. Many businesses don't have beyond a month. I'm going to be, and it happens, and you have to make these tough decisions in order to keep the business viable or to do a certain thing. But the point is this: if you do not have the necessary amount of money in hand and you don't have somebody to assist you being a governor, my apologies, being the government, being a lender, then me saying to you, oh, adapt, be resilient, do this or do the next, is just me talking into the air, because you don't have the money, you don't have the resources, you don't have the cash reserves to adapt. So that's a reality. So really, if I am talking to individuals who may have the funds, who may be able to tap into the to a lender, that's when now I can say adapt and be resilient.
Okay. So, Tecoyo, I think the word that comes to mind as you're talking just now is agility, right? Because even in the instance when the person or the business doesn't have a cash reserve to make it or to push through, I truly believe in my personal life that there's an opportunity, in every obstacle. And this may be the moment when you say, you know what, maybe it's time I just take a minute, step back, and shut the doors, reevaluate my complete circumstance, reevaluate my whole idea as it relates to business. And sometimes we see that as defeat as opposed to a reset, right? And in the concept of execution, there are going to be moments when you have to go back to your original plan and say, you know what, on step 4, we have to change the way we're going to talk about that, because now things have happened since we had step 4 in 2012. It's now 2016, and the market is different, the concept is different, the climate is different, and so you have to realign and become really, really agile as you think about how you're going to move forward. But when you think about how Fusion executes its strategy, I'm sure your competitors, if they have any sense, are looking to readjust and align and become agile, readjust their strategies. What do you think is going to be the biggest separator, I guess, if you will, between how you guys stay ahead of your competition, even as you take a minute now to reevaluate what's going on? What do you think is going to keep you ahead of what competition may be there, both in nationally and regionally?
I have to put something in real quick. Tecoyo smiling like, what competition, man? We ain't got no competition.
Hey,
I love it.
You read my mind, because my mind was separated into 2 chambers just now. The first aspect is, if I had the competition that I believe he is speaking about right now, then I would never express my strategy in taking out my competition on this, where other people
That's fair.
present to
that
give
makes
that.
sense.
You think I want the enemy to prepare for
very fair, fair.
But
Indeed.
Once again, how I look at Fusion Superplex is different than how I look at any other exhibitor in the Bahamas. When I say exhibitor, those are persons who play the movies or the films. We are a fusion of so many different businesses. That means that technically I am in competition with not one type of business, but many restaurants, advertising agencies, even though we still do work together, cinemas, arcade. We have all of these things right now in one. So really and truly, another movie cinema is technically not our competition. And we are of a nature that we are competing on a global level, because there is really nothing like Fusion Superplex, honestly, in the world, other than in Saudi Arabia, I believe. The Vox theaters in Saudi Arabia have a similar concept to us. We are the only standalone entertainment complex in the region other than that. If you can find someone somewhere else that provides the same type of services and products that we provide within this region, please let me know.
Understood. So, we want to definitely hear from our audience. So I want to end on this question. So you've shared some really, really good nuggets in terms of takeaways. And my mind is just reeling. I could easily continue this conversation for another hour. But, what, for the HR and business professionals that are on the line, what are the top 2 to 3 recommendations you'd like to leave them with in terms of, they drop off of the Zoom at 3 and consider these 2 to 3 things to build your execution ability?
Okay. I would consider, as I will go back to, because I'm a pretty principled individual, and as an attorney, I'm very focused on the facts in front of me. So I would go back to ensuring that you have a strategic plan and a good plan. That would be the first aspect right there. And as HR professionals, you are probably one of the most important aspects of any business. Let me tell you why. Because you provide the people. And as I indicated to you originally, if you do not have the right people in place to execute your plan and to map your progress, then what happens? You're going to have failure. So I believe that people is very important, and you present those people to us, because I can give you a small example. You can have a company and you could have one aspect of that company that is not in line with your vision, and it can actually destroy your entire vision if one person who makes big decisions in that company is going in one direction when the other teammates, the other members of the team are going in another direction. Correct. So therefore, people are very important, as well as you have to manage your expectations. Managing expectations is very important in executing, because if you have a plan that presumes that you're going to make $10 million when your services that you're providing only could truly estimate about $5 million. And so you overestimate your revenue and then you underestimate your costs, then you're going to have a problem. So managing your expectations are very important in the execution process. And as I already indicated earlier, innovate, be resilient, adapt.
Yes, yes. Wow. We're now going to hear from our audience. So Ahmad will take us through the audience questions. I would have shared this in the beginning. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, or if you wish, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and get your questions answered. So Ahmad, over to you.
Indeed. So we've heard so much well from Tecoyo so far in our conversation. Does anybody have any question or for us at this time? Anything that's burning in your spirit that you need to get off your chest? Any question you want to ask, that we can ask the expert, and also get some insight right now. Feel free to unmute or to type it into the chat, whichever is easiest for you. As I said at the beginning, Tecoyo, myself, and Wellington are all allergic to disengagement. So please feel free to chime in with your burning questions. If your cousin in the background has a question, you can ask him to ask too. You don't mind.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. You know, I'll get us started with one. You know, tell us, Tecoyo, about, again, if it doesn't share anything proprietary, about an instance where you planned out your execution and you just failed. You know, I mean, because as business leaders, you know, failure is a part of learning and adapting and being agile too, eh? So talk to us about an example of that, if you have one.
Well, I'm pretty sure I have a number of those things. Some of them I keep very close to my chest, but let's just have a discussion about making a decision in regards to the effects of electricity. Let's take it from that standpoint. Where we're at right now, we're in a place where our voltage drops tremendously during a period of time of the day. And so we're sitting down and we have a plan that we're going to open the movie cinemas and the entertainment center, and that we will have a necessary amount of energy that comes into the building, right? Yeah. And so now when we open, and when this necessary amount of energy does not come into the building, we now have to sit back. We have to readjust our plan.
Real time.
Yes, because we did not take into consideration when assessing the risk, because this is important when you think about assessing the consequences and the risk. It never dawned on us that energy to our building would be an issue. Mm-hmm. Okay? And therefore that presented us with a problem. And the problem now was, do we now take this money in order to inject into this technically capital expense in order for us to have the necessary amount of flow of energy into the building to provide our customers with a movie experience as well as our products to keep our doors open and to make revenue? Or do we then take that cash and place it into another pot, whereas, yes, people will be satisfied at a particular time, but then it will impede the continued operation of the business.
It's like
right?
the whole opportunity cost consideration, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Correct.
now, in between balancing the benefits and the disadvantages to this group and the benefit and the disadvantage to the company as a whole. And so this is a tough decision because either one of those decisions are going to affect your business and somewhat going to affect your reputation. But you have to make a tough decision, which technically is which one is for the greater good. Which presents the greater good, which presents the viability of the company and moving forward. But you make a decision, and so you have to deal with those consequences. And we had to make a tough decision to put in certain delays, which were already satisfied because there was a delay. We satisfied the delay, but we made that decision in order to ensure the viability of the company, if you understand where I'm coming from. So we're faced with those decisions on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, and as a new company.
Yeah. Wow, infrastructure. When we did the C3 series, it's just incredible. Being in HR, some of the stories you hear. An organization would say, we have a remote work policy. You can work from home. If in the event that has to happen, COVID hits, all right, we have a policy, we get to go, but hold on, wait, do we have laptops for our people? No, we don't. Do we have VPN access to allow them to access the server? No, we don't. 30% of our population lives in an area that is challenged, like you said, with electricity. How do people use their computers? So when we think about infrastructure, when we think about execution, these are real considerations. And, I'm going to pick on my learned friend who's in the audience, and he's going to slam me for this later. I'm so sorry. But Derek, as we talk about some of this stuff, it deals with risk management, right? Derek's a seasoned risk management professional. And risk is a real thing. Risk is a very, very real thing. Ahmad, I see a question in the chat, so I'll hand that one to you.
We do have a Sorry, go ahead, Tecoyo.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. My apologies.
Okay. We do have one question coming in from the chat, and the question reads, it's from Christian Dean. Thank you for your question, Christian. It says, how did you handle the message to employees about being closed so long?
Well, when you said handle, I handled it with great burden to my heart in regards of us closing, but in regards to the actual handling of it, I think we handled it in the best way that we could. Our HR team presented the message to the employees through a letter from the chief executive officer. We indicated to them what would be happening. Most of them knew because we had meetings with management, and we indicated to management to express certain information to the team, but we also sent out certain blasts from the email to inform them of what was occurring. And remember, originally, this was not something that was going to go beyond 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This is what we assumed that the lockdown would be in a 2-week lockdown. So we're expressing to our employees that COVID protocols are in. There will therefore restricting us from opening our doors, and we hope to be back in business in the next 2 weeks. We expressed this, and we sent this out to them through our HR protocols.
Okay. Mr. Dean, I hope that answers your question. Just because we have a lot of HR professionals and business leaders in the conversation as well. And I think one thing that's been revealed during this time is that communication truly does matter, right? And sometimes the message that you're going to have to communicate is going to be rough and it's going to be difficult to both say and to receive. But I believe if you act in the best interest of both your company and your organization, which includes the people, and you communicate effectively to them, then you are in a better position than you would have been had you decided to let people figure things out on their own. And I think that's what Tecoyo is saying here. What I want you to keep in mind as HR professionals and business leaders, even risk managers, and the conversation involved is that communication matters, because you really cannot say, you cannot do anything without letting people know what your plan is. And I may not understand your plan, but certainly the communication and the style of communication would be required to make sure we get the best result. So,
and let me just piggyback on that right there. I believe we all know that in communication there are certain aspects of communication: message, and then you have to have the message has to be received and the message has to be understood. And our team is very adamant about getting the right message across, to communicate the right message. The question is whether or not some members of the team actually understand the message that was sent, and you try your best to present the message in a way where everyone can understand it. So that aspect right there is also important. You have 340 members of the team that may understand the communication, 10 members of the team that may not understand the communication, and sometimes you have issues. So we know that we cannot always please everyone, but we try to please the masses as best as we can.
Absolutely.
And you know, a major part of communication too, and this is kind of my field, is that you have to own up for what you can influence and what you can't. You know, Tecoyo said it, you know, the initial expectation was 2 weeks. Now we're into 6, 7, 8 months, 9 months, but it's not anything that Fusion has control over. It's not even anything the government has full control over. So we have to be clear in communicating where some of these decision points are coming from and what's stirring some of these decisions.
And also, I want to get very personal right now. I'm going to get personal right now because I think it's required to clear up something. During the lockdown, we, as I indicated, we had to make a very tough decision. Okay, because the lockdown came at the worst time ever. So we had to make an important decision, and we had to make a decision in regards because we thought once again that it was only going to be a 2-week lockdown. So we had to make a decision to delay payroll at a particular time in order for the viability of the business. Now, this was communicated days before, and it was sent to the staff members in that regard. So there was effective communication. Now, the way it was received might have been different. Nonetheless, we presented this. It goes right back to risk management and the consequences of making a certain decision. You take the course, this happens on this side or this happens on the other side. Of course, now there was a negative backlash because of that particular decision. But nonetheless, for the viability of the company, I'm going to be honest with you, even though it was a tough decision, it was probably the best decision that we could make at the time. Okay? And I'm hearing Jeff Bezos indicating that that's all he does every day. He makes 3 big decisions every day. And these 3 big decisions every day, although there are only 3, they have rippling effects. And that decision that we had to make was a rippling effect. Now, after a certain period of time, we fulfilled our obligations to all of our staff members, right? This may have not been properly projected to into the media or for persons to know, but all of our staff members, our obligation to our staff members was fulfilled. But I just go back to say now that in that instance right there, that's an example of trying to communicate the right message. Some people not understanding that, but also goes back to risk management and the consequences of a decision, right? And having to balance that risk for the viability of the company.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, I get it. I used to be an auditor. My background is in accounting. There's a very big difference between revenue and cash flow. And I'm
Yes,
pretty sure that in this environment, well, I'm not pretty sure. I'm not on the management team, but I would assume that during this pandemic, cash flow is a major consideration.
it is.
Liquid cash coming into your business. So,
It
um,
is.
completely get it. Ahmad, over to you with to wrap us up with your last set of questions.
Yes, so we do have one final question. And this question reads, what advice do you have for persons looking for capital to start up a business after creating a plan? So I have my plan in my mind. I've already written it down. And Nico said earlier in the chat, write the vision, make it plain. So I've created my plan, I've written it down. I have my way forward. What is your suggestion or what advice do you have to secure capital after my plan has been generated?
Let me paint a picture to you before I answer that question. We started the idea for Fusion Superplex in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
That's the planning phase. We originally started with the IMAX, and then as we went along, we now saw that we needed to have a restaurant. We needed to have an entertainment for the kids. And we start to couple the idea and bring it together. So that was an adaptation of our original idea. 2013 is when we actually established the company, Showcase Entertainment Limited, to operate and manage the Fusion Superplex. We sat with 200 plus people.
Wow.
We went to Orlando, Thailand, New York, Florida, Cambodia, Dubai, and of course in the Bahamas right now, looking for the money, looking for the funding, looking for the financing, right? So even though we had the great plan, what we had was an unwavering commitment and conviction in order to get and fulfill our vision. So obsession is necessary in order for you to get that funding, right? You need to put your sweat equity into the plan, and you need to ensure that it's a good enough plan that the business individual who's sitting in front of you analyzing it can say, not only this is good, but they can also say, this is good, I like what you have and I'd like to invest. Don't give up. Continue persisting towards trying to find financing. That's what we did.
So the long and short of it is, be persistent, check under every rock, go to every door. Despite the no's you may receive, someone is going to give you a yes. And sometimes even the no may just be the answer to, how do I get someone to say yes? Maybe you have to go back and revamp a bit of the plot. Maybe the person who said no said why they said no.
Exactly.
And give you insight into how you can go ahead and now perfect your plan. Because you started off by saying, Tecoyo, maybe you don't need to have the perfect plan, but a plan nonetheless. And as you go through your process, your P4, you realize, my process could sound a bit of revamping here. Let's get into this and make it a little bit more fine-tuned so that the investor can say, you know what, you're good, and here's my money at the same time.
Very and
makes sense.
Exactly what you're saying right there, because what we had to do was we had to find new ways in order to mitigate potential loss. And the mitigation of potential loss in one area meant that there may be some growth in revenue in another area. And as business owners, I'm going to tell you the most powerful thing a business owner or an entrepreneur or an investor has is his ability to say no. When you're an investor or a business owner, you have to know when to say no. Sitting in front of individuals right now presenting your plan and they're telling you no, you have to understand that they probably have 50, 100 other people with the same plan, or 50, 100 other people with the same idea. You have to now say, okay, what makes yours different?
Yes. Wow. This has been good. So we're going to switch gears a little. So the first hour was about information sharing. We heard some very good principles from Tecoyo, and now we're going to take a 5-minute break. And over our break, you will hear from one of my friends and business colleagues and B. Sherm, executive board members, LaShanta Smith. to tell us a little bit. Well, I'll let her introduce herself, but I just want you to know that I aspire to be like LaShanta in the social media branding realm. She is excellent at what she does. So I will now hand it over to her.
Thank you so much, Wellington. And I'm so glad to be here with you and Ahmad. And then it's so good to be in great company with Trayvar and Tecoyo. And you know, Derek is he's my main man. Man. For those of you that don't know, that's my husband. So I'm just gonna share very quickly. I'm here. Wellington gave me 5 minutes. And I was really inspired by your presentation, Tecoyo. So actually what we're gonna talk about is how to build your brand as you execute. So it's very important for you to execute. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is LaShanta Smith. I am a wife. I am a mom of 4. I am an HR professional by day, and I am a brand strategist and digital marketer at Lamory Smith, which is a branding boutique that I own. I'm also known as the Mommy Mogul. That's my personal brand. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about building your own brand as you execute, because we've learned today that if you don't walk the talk, there's nothing happening, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to go through my 3 steps for building a brand as you execute. And what I'm going to do is put a little movie spin on it so that it's directly in line with Tecoyo. So I actually pulled out a good old-fashioned folder sheet, and I'm going to give it to you real and in live and living color. You're going to see how branding works. So the first thing you want to do is you want to develop the characters. When you're thinking about a brand, you want to stand out by being yourself, right? You want to craft your message and think about what you want to be known for. The first thing you should do is ask yourself, which aspects of your life would you like to share? For those of you that follow me, you know, I love coffee. I'm a mom, and having 4 kids is no easy feat, but I juggle many, many things. So I love to share behind the scenes, what's going on in my life, running a my personal business, and then doing all of these things, as well as having a 9 to 5. That is critical. So you want to think about what are your characteristics, which parts of your work history and your backstory you want to share. What are some of your hobbies? You may love Starbucks like I do. You may love yoga. I don't even know about that fitness life. Or like if you're like my husband, you may run marathons because obviously you like getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I don't know who does that. So think about developing the characters. Think about developing the characters in your brand. And if this is your personal brand, obviously you are the main character. So that's where you should focus. The second thing you want to do is you want to develop the storyline. So you want to take your audience on a journey. You want to share touch points that your followers can relate to. So a lot of that is things that we have common ground on. So that's why I share my story on motherhood and running a business and being an employee and running a business, because I can't post between 9 and 5 because I'm at work, and I encourage other professionals to do the same. So you want to give 100% at work, but there are things in my business that I can share that helps other entrepreneurs that also have a 9 to 5, which is scheduling, having apps and processes and systems that can do that for you. So you want to share touch points that your followers can relate to. So you want to ask yourself, what is my why and how can others relate? So here you really want to identify yourself as the hero. That's a point blank period. You are the hero. Your success story is what you're sharing, but you want to identify the villain too. What are some of the challenges and the pitfalls that you have in your journey? It may be not completing a degree, but deciding to take a certification route. That's a villain that you can ultimately become victorious on. You want to talk about those catalysts, people that really make change in your life. Who are the mentors? Who do you look up to? Who are the Michelle Obamas, the Raymond Winders, the Wellington Hepburns in your life?
I receive it.
Trying to help you to get along. Think about developing that storyline. And last but not least, you want to roll out those trailers. Here is where you establish yourself as the expert. You need to use traditional and digital media marketing strategies that I love to teach about to educate, inspire, motivate, and provide resources. Some of those things you can do is you can share articles on social media and not necessarily writing your own articles. You can share from thought leaders on LinkedIn. You can write in the newspaper like my husband does. You can do a video series on YouTube. Ahmad is really good at sharing his own content on LinkedIn. So I am a big fan as well.
Yeah, he is.
Or you can do learning series that provide resources for subject matter experts like Wellington is doing right now. It is important that you roll out the trailers because people won't know that you do these things unless you tell the story.
Yes.
You have to be in command of that story. So start to roll out those trailers. And I recommend posting something of value, some valuable content at least once a week. Now, if you're running a business, I say 3 times a week, but let's just say as business professionals, the personal brand, something of value once per week will get you there, right? And then number 4, which is not here on this screen, you're ready to premiere, you're ready to roll out the red carpet and monetize this personal brand. That's where I come in. So you want to connect with me here. If you want to monetize that personal brand, if you're ready to make money on something that you're already amazing at, again, you have to walk the talk. You have to be able to do and give the results that you promise people. And if you're ready to make money for that, that's where you get a personal branding coach. So I help professionals to brand themselves. I help nonprofits specifically, but I also help businesses to brand themselves. And these are my contact details if you want to know more. You can email me. And of course, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I go live twice a week and I give little nuggets. But Wellington only said 5 minutes. So that's all you get today.
Why is she making me sound like the villain?
Brand, right? It's a story.
Well, right. In her story, she did say identify the villain.
Yeah.
I love it. Listen, guys, there are very few people that I actively support. Derek is one of them. He's doing an outstanding job. And LaShanta is one of them. I was a LaShanta fan even before I met her. I think LaShanta and I met officially, like professionally, last year, but I was a LaShanta fan even before. So I joke a lot, guys, but I'm drop dead serious. She is very good at what she does. We are working on the HR board right now, and she's doing a fantastic job. So if you need the type of services that she's providing, I would strongly recommend that you reach out to her. It will be worth every penny and every second of your time. I saw Travar had a note in the chat to say, where do you find the time? Travar, she is secretly Superwoman. She didn't tell us that today. But that's
I believe it's even further than Superwoman Wellington. I actually watched LaShanta's live, and it's like, this lady is someone's wife. She's someone's employee. She's someone's boss. She's 4 people, for someone's mother.
My Lord.
Yeah,
And exactly. And Trevor's question about where do you find the time, I believe it goes down to her passion. It's what she loves to do, and so it becomes effortless, even though she puts a lot of effort into it. And it goes back to our general theme of execution as well. Like, there are moments in LaShanta's day when I'm sure she's like, you know what? Okay, one of these 4 children are hungry, and one of these 4 children tired, and one of these 4 children need something.
Yeah.
And there, this and there, and all these things happening, but she still has a plan to execute, and she may have to juggle a few things around, but that's just what you do. And when you're passionate about it, the plan doesn't become so much worrisome as opposed to, like a victory today. And so thank you so much, LaShanta, for joining us today and for sharing these nuggets with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, LaShanta. All right, so we're going to switch gears now. So in the first hour, we spoke about content, we spoke about principles, and we heard from Mr. Fusion Superplex himself. Thank you, Tecoyo. We greatly appreciate the nuggets you shared and also your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you. One of the things in the transition series that separates us is that we don't just give you the principles, but we give you an opportunity to apply them. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at a very short case study, and I'll just put that on the screen. And the intent is to put you into breakout groups, virtual breakout groups, and you'll have about maybe 15, 20 minutes to just work through this case study and answer the following questions. Now, before we get into the study itself, I want to lay some ground rules. 1, when we put you in your group, we'd like for you to select a team lead. I used to have an old boss that used to say, please and thank you. So please pick a team lead. The team lead is to capture the team's answers and also to represent the team when we come back into the broader discussion forum. We're going to watch a short video, and then the intent is for you to answer these discussion questions. So we'll make sure to provide those so that you can have those in your chat. And the team lead will come back and share overall responses in the larger session. Point 5 is critically important. Guys, this is a video that we've pulled from the news, and it is a video of the government providing an update to us as a country. So this case is not about politics or political parties. We're pulling out something that is relevant, that has been shared within the last week, and something that all of us can relate to because it's public knowledge shared by the government. So I really want you to hone in on what are the things that they're doing well in terms of execution, and what opportunities do we see. So please, let's not make this FNM, DNA, PLP that loses and just deflates the whole value that could be received from it. Let's focus on execution ability. So let me play the video for you. The video is here, and let me stop sharing and just put the audio on. So give me one moment. Share system sound, and you should be able to see this. And it's about a 2-minute video.
Cabinet to discuss a proposal to extend the unemployment assistance program. Good morning, everyone. I'm LaDawn Davis. Thank you so much for waking up with us. As Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Peter Turnquest explained to our news team this morning, it's with the anticipation of pumping another $45 million into the program, bringing it to the end of December. The government has to date injected over $150 million, assisting those who have lost their income due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We recognize that the planned opening or level of opening that we had anticipated for November may not come to fruition as quickly and as robustly as we would have hoped, and that is going to require some further social assistance to carry people through this difficult period. And we certainly hope and anticipate that come January that we'll be able to roll off this program or make other arrangements. The reality is that there are many people who are still in desperate need of assistance, and as a responsible government, we have an obligation to assist as best we can.
Minister Turnquest makes no secret of the fact that the government has hoped the impact of the pandemic would have been long behind them.
When we entered this pandemic in March, no one anticipated that we would have gone past June, and we had initially budgeted for that. When we got to June and recognized that the pandemic was not going away anytime soon, we extended out our budget through September again with the understanding based upon the science at the time that the virus should start to abate by then. Unfortunately, that has not happened, and unfortunately, as a result of that, global travel has been restricted. Persons are concerned about their personal safety and health, and so they're not traveling the way that we would have anticipated. We've had to close our own borders and put in place strict measures to ensure that we control the import of the virus as best we can, which has had obvious effects both in terms of international travel as well as domestic travel. And all of this has caused hardship on the average family, on businesses, that is showing its way in various sectors of the economy, as well as in the need for social assistance from the government, as well as from all of the non-governmental organizations who have been pitching in and doing a tremendous job in helping to alleviate the needs of our residents and citizens.
Yes. So you've heard the summary that we wanted to share. So the discussion questions that we want you to consider are there any challenges with the execution ability of the Bahamas government to develop an economic recovery plan for the country? You will discuss that within your team. And then the second question is, what are the top 3 recommendations you would propose to the Bahamas government to boost economic activity in the next 12 to 18 months. You'll discuss that in your team, and we would encourage you to reflect on the execution principles from the book, and also which would have been shared by Mr. Tecoyo Bridgewater. So Ahmad, over to you. I have made you the host, and you can put us into the breakout groups. Ahmad will also be popping in and out of each group to see how the conversation is going, and to also see if you have any questions. So Ahmad, over to you.
Indeed, everyone. So this is a very exciting part of our session where we get to separate ourselves. I'm going to separate you into groups with 16 persons on the call. Now we're going to do about 3 groups. So I'm going to do that for you right now. Just give me one moment.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 groups. So the rooms are going to be open in a few short seconds, and you're going to automatically be placed into the group.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is that Owen?
That's correct. That's correct. Mr. Hepburn and Miss Sherman and Rivera.
Yes, yes. Hi, how's it going, Trevor and Kathleen?
Everything's going great. How are you doing?
Very, very good. Very good. I see we have Edris in our group too. Excellent.
So I guess, Mr. Hepburn, I guess you'll be the team leader, right?
Man, no man. I put the whole webinar together, man. I can't be the team leader. I was gonna say, you know, it's 3 men and 2 females. Maybe one of our females could be the team leader.
And that sounds good too.
No, I'd like for one of you guys to be the team leader. You know, it's all about allowing you to participate.
Sherman, you willing to take that lead?
Certainly, certainly.
Thank you, thank you.
So just wanted to circle back on the assignment. I wish I downloaded that, the questions. Wellington, just remind me again the 3 questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question, I'll put them on my second screen. Give me a moment. The first question is, are there any challenges with the execution ability of the Bahamas government to develop an economic recovery plan? And then what are the top 3 recommendations we would propose to the Bahamas government to boost economic activity over the next 12 to 18 months?
Okay.
If I could start, Mish, maybe share something to the case study number 1. I think the problem with the economic recovery plan, the execution of it is, you know, one thing you want to know is the resources really available, you know, to accommodate what is being done. You know, COVID-19 has catch all of us by surprise. So the question you want to know, you know, like I always say, money don't go on tree. And so to do dishing out all of this money, my thing is, where's it coming from, and how are we going to go to recover it? You know, I don't think we want to delve into the IMF and all those other agencies. But my thing is that where are the resources coming from, and you know, we need to put a step-by-step approach to it. Okay, and so that's my concern as it relates to the execution of the plan. You know, it's whether or not the resources are available to execute the plan. And I think what we need to probably do is be innovative in trying to find other means by which we could look at the recovery of the economy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll add a comment. So when we think about what we talked about, Tecoyo, Mr. Bridgewater shared, he talked about process, he talked about strategy, and he talked about operationalizing to make progress. One of the things I'm happy that the government has done is when we think about people, they have appeared to bring together some of the experts locally that can help to come up with some solutions. I'm not saying everyone is included, but I think they're trying. One of the things that I see as a challenge is I just feel that they're taking way too long. I think that it needs to be a tiered approach, They should have had a plan 30 days into it to 60 days into it. These are the initial things we will do. This may only be 20% of what's needed, but have it scaled. And maybe I missed it, but I still haven't seen where the Economic Recovery Committee has put forward any recommendations yet. And I may have missed it. But we're almost 8 months into this pandemic. So for me, I struggle with the level of communication and the speed at which recommendations are coming forth. Even if they're not fully complete recommendations, give us something and stage it.
I would, to add on to that, I have some serious concerns with the level of communication and the speed at which these things are being addressed. But I would like to even go back a little bit and talk about the development of this plan. I think when the committee was assigned, and even though they have other grassroots approaches, I think the committee was not a proper representation of the stakeholders of this problem. If we go to many concepts like creative problem solving, this is exactly what this is. We're trying to solve a problem. How are we involving the stakeholders, the persons who are affected? So that's the community, that's the businesses, and getting more participation across the different groups of stakeholders in proposing this plan to ensure that when it is proposed, it is to the satisfaction of the general public and that there is sufficient buy-in. Because what I do not want to see happen is that people sit in their ivory towers who are so disassociated with the day-to-day realities of a Bahamian. And then they propose this plan that is to the advantage of only a small percentage of our population. And so I think there needs to be more approaches to brainstorming collectivist procedures on gathering information and really drilling down into what could be that innovative solution that is the most utilitarian. I think that's absolutely necessary. And I don't see that that's being done. And I'm not confident that what is being done is going to be satisfactory.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Kathleen and Edris, do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay. So that's the first question. Now I see Ahmad is in our chat. Ahmad, how much more time do we have?
Hello, everyone. We're going to go back to the main group at we have about 12 more minutes left.
Okay.
To get some good discussion in. So feel free to dive in. HA Horace, good to see you. To dive in a bit deeper and continue to get discussion. So keep going, guys. Thanks a lot.
Another challenge that I see too is, and I think Owen touched on it a little bit, I guess, fiscal responsibility. I know that the government has a responsibility to be there to support us as its citizens throughout this time. But, we know that we operate with a fiscal deficit. So where is this money coming from? Where's this money coming from? Are we putting a bandage on an overall cancer? Because in my opinion, I think we need to be focused on bringing new money into the country. And a lot of our infrastructure, a lot of what we're set up with now kind of cycles existing money in the country in a circular fashion, but we need to think about bringing new money into the country. And I think as a part of their execution strategy, and I'll be fair to them, maybe I haven't seen it, but I don't see enough focus on that.
The ease of doing business in the Bahamas has to be looked at. There are too many impediments for persons who wish to do business here. It's almost like you're fighting yourself to grow, and being party to Fusion in terms of its growth and how it was able to come to pass. The delays and the headache, it was so unnecessary. And it sort of, it relegates persons to only doing the small things, because if you try to get too big, it's not even worth the headache. And it's just, you're just trying to survive, and there's not a lot of support for that. And I think actually a lot of these persons in positions of power are a hindrance to it.
Yeah, yeah, I can't disagree. And for those who do not know, Travar is the vice president of HR over at Fusion. So that's why she referenced Fusion.
If I may add, my question would run into the second question, but one of the suggestions I'd probably give to the government is to us to develop more cooperatives to the nation. And just to explain a bit for those who might know what cooperatives, there's a three-part approach to cooperatives. There's the financial component, there's the agricultural component, and then there's the manufacturing or the handicraft component. And I think if we could develop this kind of cooperatives, you could even use it, develop different, each family come together and develop cooperatives, because if we develop the agricultural component, we'll be feeding ourselves. If we develop the financial component, then we'll be able to put ourselves more in a better financial position. And in terms of financial literacy, and if we want to go ahead as a family and start businesses, the financial component could be there as a lending agent to help us start businesses. And then if we want to go into the handicraft component or the manufacturing component, you know, back in the day, if we were to study history, you know, Mama and Papa used to have, they used to crochet, they used to do straw work, they used to sew and all these other kind of things. And they send these things out to the market and they sell to the tourists. That in itself helps to recover the economy. So I think if we could develop that cooperative, those three parts of the cooperative approach, the handicraft, the agricultural component, as well as the financial component, that could be like a jump start towards our economy, okay?
Yeah, oh, and that's like brilliant. Like looking at the amount of things we import into this country, things that could have been produced locally. One thing I did like was that when they put a restriction on the masks being brought in to sort of jumpstart the mask industry locally.
Correct.
And I think that, I mean, I don't want to use this as an example, but I will. But like if you look at Cuba, right, and how that Cuba is able to exist without mass import from the United States, how do we now use our talents, our resources to build a sustainable economy that's made by the hands of our ingenious Bahamian people who have so many ideas and so much to contribute. They may not have the level of business acumen to execute it on their own, but with these the facilities provided by these co-ops, that's so possible. And I think that should be a focus for sure. Because you don't have to be grants. It doesn't have to be grand, you know, it could be something small that helps.
Small, right.
Because those straw vendors send their children to college. Those straw vendors built this economy.
Yes. And the thing about it is that we have the Bahamas Agricultural Industrial Corporation that is there to guide you through this process as well. So
yeah,
the institutions are there. Just you need to just utilize them.
Yeah. Do you guys feel that as a country?
Hello, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to interject. I misread my time. I'm very sorry. You have 2 more minutes left, family, before I bring you back to the main floor, okay? So 2:40, I'll bring you back to the main floor. Thank you.
Sure. No problem, Ad. No problem. So do you think, I'll speed it up, do you think as a country we've really found what our competitive advantage is outside of tourism? I mean, do you think we found that niche?
I'll go ahead, Owen.
I think
You're speaking on mute, Owen.
Sorry. I think if you were to look at our creativity in terms of Junkanoo and so forth, and our artistic abilities, I think we are creative people. So, you know, I think if we just build on those type of skills that we have, then you have persons who they're in the kitchen area, they're making jams, they're making sauces and so forth. And all these things, I think it doesn't matter of us looking at the skills that we do every day, that we take for granted.
Kathleen, did you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say this. I'm listening to the dialogue and I won't go into details, but the truth of the matter is the cooperative society, especially on the financial side, we have not embraced it in the Bahamas. And I will say so, I can say so unequivocally, because of my experience with other Caribbean countries and the movement. I am actually involved with one of the credit unions, and I know the ins and outs with the league. We have not embraced it. And it's not the government per se, it's a matter of there's a Department of Cooperatives, we've not pushed it and we've not embraced it. But my point, I'm going to make two quick points. One, we have to find ways to decrease the cost of doing business in this country. It is too expensive, one.
Yes. Yeah.
And two, we have to improve in terms of the ease of doing business. When you want to open a bank account, when you want to get a business license, et cetera, et cetera. It is too time consuming. It is too going from one department to the next. It is too complicated. And so if we can find ways to deal with those two factors to stimulate other sectors in our country, we could be on our way. I hear us talking about, we could do this, we could do that. It is costly. It is extremely costly. And despite what we think we have a competitive advantage in this country, actually we don't. And I'll leave it at that.
And I agree with you with I know we have 60 seconds left, but Kathleen, I agree with you 100%. And you're with your statements. And I think a big part of it goes down to the foundation of our education and the way we were rearing people, and the value systems that we're putting into our kids, pushing them into these streams of not pushing them to be entrepreneurial. I think it's one of our biggest issues. And thinking that everyone is going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, that's not happening. Let's teach trades. Let's teach the value of, working and developing your own ideas. And that's why our Black market, our Black financial economy is so strong, because people aren't formalizing their businesses. There's so much money circulating in this country that's not through the formal channels because people don't have time or energy to go through the rigmarole.
Agree.
They cannot, because in some cases, because
All right, everyone, welcome back to the main session. I heard some spirited conversation as I jumped around from room to room. So I'm excited to hear what your feedback is and what you've decided to present on today. And so because we have three groups, I'm going to give us some time to hear from all three of you. So I would like the team lead from the first group, which would have been Christian's group, I believe, to come in and give us your feedback. Christian, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Ahmad. I think so.
Thank you.
One of the challenges that we found with the economic recovery is that the government of the Bahamas is not only the government, but as we know, tourism is the main source of income. And obviously we know that this is one of the industries, the main industry that was affected by COVID. So one of the challenges that we see is that the government probably need to find a way to make our other industries, our second and third industries, I guess more, you would say, more available for the persons to actually enter. And I think, it was banking at one point, but, banking would have gone down due to, I guess, Barack Obama when he came in. And then we have fishing. So I think the government need to remove, the challenge is remove the focus of only tourism and put more focus on our second, third, and fourth industries, which would have been fishing and banking, and I'm assuming construction.
Okay. So more of a diversification of resources then.
Yes.
Gotcha. And what are the three recommendations that you all propose the government should do to boost economic activity right now?
The first thing is to boost the economic activity. We believe that the government need to communicate with relevant stakeholders. We know that the government have created a recovery group, an economic recovery committee, but is that committee really in communication with relevant stakeholders? And that's locally, that's on different islands, different sectors. We believe if they were to speak to persons in specific industries or islands, I think that would be a better recovery. We also say to the government to give assistance to small businesses. We have seen that during COVID, that there are a high uptick in persons opening their own businesses. But we believe that these persons would need assistance with running companies. And that's by, they could possibly assist them with marketing or accounting. And if that means that the government would need to take a small ownership, I guess just to pay for those resources, then we believe that should be something that should happen. And our third one is to give a stimulus package, not the way that they were doing it by giving out loans, but to give a stimulus, because a lot of persons are currently paying rent for office buildings. And at one point, they have to actually make a decision that, hey, I can't pay the rent, the landlord needs his money, we just have to close down. So we believe if the government was assisting in stimulus packages for companies that were paying actual business license fees and paying VAT fees, that we believe that a stimulus package should have been or could be given to those companies. And that's our third one.
Thank you very much, Christian. That last one is something I had not thought about from that perspective, because I believe there's a risk in receiving a handout versus persons who actually were following the law and processes and procedures to benefit from it. So that's a great idea and some great insights. Thank you very much for your group and your participation. We appreciate it. I'm going to move right into group 2. And I don't know who the group lead there was, but I know that was Group Wellington was then. So whoever that group lead is, please feel free to unmute yourself and give us your feedback.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Trayvar. We spoke about several challenges and concerns with the execution ability to develop this economic recovery plan. One of the major concerns was, the delay and the lack of efficiency in delivering this plan. Given that we're now in October, the expectation would have been for more communication on this plan. However, we voiced concerns about, the involvement of the stakeholders, that being the global, the population, the business owners, and all different parties that are involved in this, involving them more in developing this plan so that when it is actually released, it is one that serves all parties to the best advantage, and is not only benefiting the stakeholders who have been included in the process thus far. And so we really have a desire to see more inclusivity in how the concerns of the population in the economic recovery are addressed, ensuring that more persons are able to come out of this in a good position. And that's what we discussed. We had several recommendations, one of which was to establish more co-op units where people are able to focus on agriculture, handcrafts, and then getting more financial support. But one of the things that we really talked about was the difficulty with doing business locally. And so we are sort of our own impediment as it relates to persons who wish to become entrepreneurial, persons who wish to create business opportunities for themselves. It's so hard to do business here because of the different regulations, the different processes, and that is one of the key things that need to be addressed if we hope to boost the economic activity, making it easier to do business, less expensive to do business, and providing more support for entrepreneurs. I don't know if I missed anything. Was there anything I should have added? No?
You're muted, Wellington.
You're muted.
You're muted.
No, I said I believe that's a good summary. So no, good job.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
good. So there seems to be a trend here in what we consider the challenge to be. And the first two groups have indicated communication is a challenge, right? And we talked at length throughout the presentation today and our conversation about how communication is necessary. So group three, as you come with your synopsis, tell us what you saw as challenges and what recommendations do you have?
Pardon me? You asking group three?
Yes.
Okay. I'll take the lead on this one as I wrote down some notes. Let me just take it to the question itself. Are there challenges? First answer, yes, there are challenges. And our group indicated that certain challenges may have arisen in three areas. One of the areas may be the lack of bipartisan participation between the government. If that increases, then we may be able to map out a better economic plan moving forward. The second is an indication from both previous groups, whereas the stakeholders and consultation with small and medium business owners on the ground to have a greater awareness of the impact of the COVID protocols restrictions has had on the business community. And then you have the third aspect, which we consider to be a challenge, is the unknowns. We don't know when COVID is going to end. Yeah. We don't know how long we will have to have these lockdowns. We don't know whether there's going to be a vaccine. So that creates a challenge to the production of any type of recovery plan, the unknown. Because remember, he indicated in his statement that he never saw past June. So in creating a plan right now, when do I implement this action versus this action, seeing that COVID is still an issue. So those are the three challenges that we have. Now, in regards of boosting economic activity in the next 12 to 18 months, the government, their powers are in legislating, and we believe that if there are institutions of additional programs to assist small to medium business owners, getting that participation, creating policies or the laws to help to stimulate these businesses, as one of the individuals in the previous group stated, that will assist to boost the economy, because we do know that small to medium businesses are actually the lifeblood of the economy. Additionally, what we can do is take what both of the other groups indicated as well in helping the people by presenting stimuluses not only to the small businesses, but what we would need to do is we would need to continue to ensure that the people receive some type of stimulus, because when people don't receive stimulus, there's unrest. When people can't feed their families, there's unrest. But we need to innovate the way that we distribute these funds to the people as well as to the small businesses. And this is where innovation comes in right now. What we actually need to do is seeing that the Bahamas has a penetration rate of, I believe, 100% as it relates to cell phones. The government is introducing the sand dollar. What we can do is we can introduce the stimulus monies. Instead of persons going down to NIB and inundating NIB, you can put it in something like Canoe, or you can put in something like Sun Cash, and the government can utilize the sand dollar, and everybody that signs up and everybody that can show that they are supposed to participate in the receiving of the stimulus, the government can just shoot all monies to the necessary parties. You can cut time, red tape, and inefficiencies by using technology. That's one aspect of it. As well as the third would be the reduction in concessions. The reduction in concessions for certain small businesses and certain medium-sized businesses. A lot of people bring in consumables, and we know that there is a tax on consumables there, as well as there is a tax on office equipment and printers. If you are not a part of the Hotels Encouragement Act, you are hit with these duties. Now, they have made certain concessions, but I believe that taking it a step further, whereas there can be a certain period of time where the introduction of consumables will not, when I mean the importation, my apologies, the importation of consumables will be duty free. Okay. So that means if the food stores are not being taxed, then that means that that savings can be pushed on to the consumer, right? As well as if the businesses who are producing the food to the customer, if they now the tax is reduced, and if they don't have to pay that duty, that means the savings can also be passed on to the consumer. Now, I would run on and discuss all these other ideas that people have in regards of moving away from tourism and moving into something else like farming, but I see that as being something that is going to, in the end, cost the country more than it saves us if we just dive deep into it. But that's not a discussion for the day.
Okay.
Indeed. Your group, the three of your groups have brought so much to our forefront right now, because it almost makes me want to continue the conversation, but we are running out of time here today. But that's the power of this type of session, right? Because you get to bring your thoughts and your revelations to the forefront, and we can discuss it in a way that's not going to be, that we can all glean from it, and we can take it back to our own realities and perhaps even implement some of it. But it's really important. It's really good to see that a lot of the central themes came from each group, right? So communication remains very important. How and when and what and to whom we're communicating is important, and also getting insight from the stakeholders. That's also very important as well. And so I want to thank each of you group leaders for bringing your group feedback to the forefront. We appreciate your participation today. And we appreciate you taking the time to unmute and get your cameras on. It was very exciting to see and hear from you. And we really don't take it for granted. We appreciate your involvement in that very engaging session. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Indeed. So as we move into the end of our session today, it's been a very interesting 2 hours, because we've had an opportunity to really understand from Tecoyo a bit more what execution actually means, right? We understand that execution is all about the plan. Well, it's in part about the plan, but it's also about the people you have around you as well. Who are you inviting into your space? Who are you using to bring your plan to life? We also talk a lot about sometimes just taking a minute to revamp and to reevaluate your circumstance. Understand that with the plan in place, the strategy may be there as well, but you may have to dig a little bit deeper and sometimes start from scratch or just reevaluate where you find yourself in the current moment. And that's very, very important, right? Because without the plan, you can't execute. With a great execution strategy, but no plan, there's still going to be some issues there. And so I want you to keep to the forefront of your mind. It is about the plan. It is about the people, but it's also about being agile. He mentioned the ability to adjust and then readjust, right? As we move through this next several months, we're coming up against, as you said, it's now in his last portion of the presentation. Nobody has any idea how long COVID will be with us, but you certainly have an idea how you will deal with COVID as it presents itself to you. And so it's important that you remember what Tecoyo mentioned today. Have the plan. It doesn't need to be perfect. It could be good, but it needs to be at least good, right? Get the people that you're going to use, which could mean your employees or just the people around you in business that you're doing business with. And then, of course, be able to be agile, and then to readjust and adjust. So thank you very much for your participation today. And Tecoyo, do you have anything you want to mention about Fusion Superplex right now? Any upcoming plans, any things you want to share with the audience? Feel free to let us know.
What I would say is, just prepare for our reopening in the future. And we will be presenting a few new things to assist with moving through the new normal. So please come along when we are open.
Excellent.
Listen, I will put a shameless plug in there. My wife and kids and I have been checking Fusion's website like every 2 weeks. I'm like, why don't they just open? Just break the law and open, man.
Yes, we will stand 6 feet apart. I will skip every other seat. I will not touch anybody. I promise you. Listen. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in.
My God.
And it's just amazing how we have in our VIP theaters actually built-in COVID protocols.
Exactly. Exactly.
We have a what you would call a cove, 6 feet apart. So I don't understand, but hey, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. Eventually, Tecoyo, eventually we'll get there.
Yes, yes. Now, Ahmad, tell us a little bit about what you do. And before you do that, I see that we're approaching 3 o'clock. We are maybe about 7 to 10 minutes behind. So if you could give us a few more minutes, we would appreciate it. But for those of you that have to drop off right at 3, we thank you for your time today. We thank you for your contribution. And as we say at Wellington Hepburn International, as we grow together. So hopefully you can join us for some more future sessions and we can all grow and evolve and become better. Ahmad?
Indeed. Thank you so much, Wellington, for this opportunity. Astute Talent Management is a talent management consulting firm, and I provide organizations and individuals with the tools they need to perfect their talent. So for organizations, it could be recruitment, it could be team building exercises, it could be leadership training and development, it could be employee training and development that you want to embark upon to get your people resourced to the best level that they can be, to provide your consumers with the best service that they can benefit from. And then from the individual side, I provide resume redesign services, I provide training and development services for individuals as well, customer service training. I also do interview readiness training as well. So if you have any need to perfect your talent, to take yourself to the next level, whether you're an organization or an individual, please feel free to contact me. I'm able to be reached on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and my cell phone number is also there listed as well. So feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Listen, guys, Ahmad is doing big things. I don't say this from a point of pride, so please don't leave thinking that I'm trying to be proud. But I'm very careful with what my brand associates with and who we associate with. And I scout talent in the industry and I try to make them better and vice versa. They make me better. And Ahmad is disrupting things in HR in this community and regionally. So please avail yourself of his services. He's great at what he does. If he wasn't, trust me, we would not be partnering with him.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So know that he is great at what he does. What do we do at WHI? Most of you on this line know who I am. Wellington Hepburn, president for Wellington Hepburn International. We do keynote presentations, we do workshops, we do some of the talent management services that Ahmad also provides too. But essentially the concept behind WHI is whether you're in a workshop, whether we're helping you to write a book, whether we're taking you through some headhunting services, whatever it might be, the intent is for you to be better. I have a mentor, Chris Fuller, in the US. He's actually the #1 John Maxwell trainer in the world. And he has a phrase where he says, faster, further, longer, stronger. So if I could borrow that from you, Chris, please don't charge me. The intent would be for us to grow together, faster, further, longer, stronger. So if there's anything that my company can do to support you, please know that we are here. A lot of what we do is actually free because for me, it's a level of altruism and giving back to the community. A couple more things I want to highlight. Every session in this transition series, we do have certificates that are provided. These certificates are from the C3 series. And the intent is, I mean, the only reason I'm using these is because we only had 1 episode of the transition series so far. But know that we do provide certificates. If you would like a keepsake to commemorate your experience, then you can let us know. It's $4.99 per certificate, and we will get that to you digitally. I also want to highlight, which I'm quite proud about, is the first book for WHI is coming out on October 31st. It's called Cultivating an Agile Mind. Boy, Ahmad, if you know the struggle. Cultivating an Agile Mind. And there's a proprietary R5 model that my company has developed. And we recently got the backing of Bridget Hassan, who is just like one of the top 5 HR professionals worldwide. So she read the book. She's impressed with the model. She gave us a forward. So stay tuned. If any of you are interested in pre-ordering for the book, if you go to my website, which is just W Hepburn International, and you go to books, These are the two books that I'm currently writing simultaneously. Like Lashanta, I guess I'm too a superhero. But you can pre-order, and when the books become available, we'll make sure that you get your copy. Cultivating an Agile Mind is available in October. Elevate is available in November. And then the last thing I'd like to highlight is our upcoming event. This is a draft flyer. So we're still, dotting some I's and crossing some T's, but know that the third competency in our transition framework, which Ahmad would have brought up before, deals with enterprise risk management. How do you deal with change? How do you adjust? How do you manage risk? You heard Tecoyo talk about risk very, very directly today. And if we want to think about how do we ready ourselves for the future, we need to get ahead of risk. So in our next session, we'll be hearing from Hubert Edwards. He used to be a past managing director over at Bank of the Bahamas. Worked with Hubert maybe about 25 years ago, and I was an auditor at Deloitte. Derek Smith, hands down, one of the best and most vocal risk management and compliance professionals right now. You pick up any paper, you'll see an article in there from Derek. And then we also have Natasha Roel-Bastian, phenomenal at what she does. And we'll be hearing from this panel surrounding ERM, change management, business continuity planning, and how do we really manage that as individuals and as companies. All right. So at this point, we've come to the end of the road for this particular webinar, but we would like to thank you for your participation. We had about 40 individuals confirmed. I got a couple messages on WhatsApps saying that some individuals' power is still off, so our numbers are a little lower than planned today. But I do hope that you got some value from today's session. We want to thank Tecoyo again, for taking time out of your schedule. I'm sure if you had to charge us for this presentation, we wouldn't be able to afford it. So in as much as we could laugh about it, we appreciate your time, my friend, because
You're
it's
welcome.
all about making us better. So thank you.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, what was that?
No, I said, you're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Oh, excellent, man. Excellent. I appreciate
Okay.
you. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday, guys. Thank you. And stay tuned. And hopefully you can register for our upcoming session. Take care.
Indeed. Have a good Sunday, everyone. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. Cheers.